All right, joining me once again here on the Matthew Filipowicz Show is my good friend, Kade Crockford. Kade is the Privacy Rights Coordinator for the ACLU of Massachusetts, which you can find at aclum.org. She also writes the Privacy SOS blog, which is privacysos.org. Kade, thank you so much for being on the show again.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so Kade, the ACLU just this week has released a brand new, shocking report on license plate readers. It's really pretty frightening. Why don't you tell us all about it?
Sure. License plate readers are a pretty powerful law enforcement technology. Basically, they're little cameras that are either affixed to patrol cars or sometimes they're under bridges. You could find them at intersections, sort of the way that surveillance cameras are now throughout urban areas. They even make covert license plate readers that you can put in those orange cones on the highway. And basically what they do is they take an image of every license plate that passes them by or that they pass by if they're on a cruiser. Excuse me. And not only do they take a photograph of the license plate and the car around the plate, but they also note the time, date, and location when that interaction took place. So basically there are two ways that cops can use these things. The first is largely unobjectionable from a civil liberties perspective, and that is simply to automate something that police have done for a long time, which is to check license plate numbers against lists of stolen cars, outstanding warrants, expired registrations, even parking scofflaws, stuff like that. And that's not really what we're worried about at all. I mean, I know that some people don't like that, but that's not our concern. That's not a civil liberties issue. The concern that we have is that law enforcement are retaining these data on entirely innocent people. So, if I'm a police officer and I'm driving down the street with one of these cameras affixed to the top of my cruiser, there will be a beep on my little monitor whenever I pass by somebody who has a violation that I need to check out. But all of the other cars that I pass by, the information about those cars will be sucked up into my database, even if those people haven't done anything wrong. And that's where the problem lies. So what we're seeing is that in the absence of legislation or any meaningful regulations, there's only legislation governing license plate readers in 5 states. So in 45 states, this technology is entirely unregulated. And we found in this report, last summer in July 2012, we filed a number of public records requests all over the country in 38 affiliates and to some federal organizations, some federal government agencies as well. And we found that the rules are really all over the map. Even in states where there is legislation, Utah, Arkansas, New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine, the standards vary widely. In Vermont, I think there's a 150-day data policy after which law enforcement has to delete that data, but that's quite a long time. In Maine, it's 21 days, which is much more reasonable. So basically the problem is that if law enforcement are allowed, as they are now in the vast majority of places in this country, to collect this data and store it for as long as they want, and not just that, but pool it into regional databases at these so-called fusion centers, these spy centers in major urban areas, which is what is happening in Maryland. It's what's happening in Northern California and places in the Midwest and a variety of other parts of the country. What we're seeing is a trend towards a really devastating outcome. And that outcome is going to be, once these machines are ubiquitous like surveillance cameras are, law enforcement will be able to put my license plate number into a database and up will pop essentially a map showing everywhere I've driven. So this constitutes warrantless routine surveillance of our travel patterns, of our location information. And that's our issue with this. Fundamentally.
Yeah, I mean, it's one. I personally, I'm a little creeped out about the cameras everywhere. That certainly, I kind of don't really like that in general. But again, it's one thing to have these things taking these numbers and holding them for a week or two, and that's one thing. And then it's like, oh, if someone is kidnapped or there's an Amber Alert or something like that. To use it in that type of regard is one thing, but the fact that, again, like you said, there's only 5 states that actually regulate how long this data is actually stored is again, is it forever, which is, kind of what the same kind of things we have going on with the NSA, big revelations that we're having coming, that they really are just storing everything. Are they actually storing our movements forever, essentially?
Right. And yeah, you're right. It's the obvious corollary is the NSA's metadata surveillance program. The government does not have the authority, in my view, and as far as Fourth Amendment principles are concerned, to collect vast troves of information about people against whom it has no suspicion of wrongdoing. That is fundamentally a totalitarian mindset, that the government is going to collect as much information about our private lives as possible, even if it doesn't suspect us of a crime. And they want to use that information, they say, just in case in the future, if it's ever necessary, or, if they ever need to use it for a murder investigation or a terrorist attack or something like that. Of course they throw out crimes that really frighten people and that are serious, but the issue that we obviously need to confront is that mass surveillance, mass suspicionless, warrantless surveillance of this kind is just fundamentally incompatible with a democratic society. The government cannot have that much power in a society and call it free at the same time. It's just not workable.